Martial World Teyvat Chapter 56, Fantasy Fiction by Azazyel. Two forms sitting face to one another were in deep meditation, their features all but an identical match with purple hair streaming down their backs and refined features were at perfect peace as they were in deep meditation. But then that calm meditation was shattered as the door to the sealed room was thrown open with a loud feminine huff ringing out. Both of the purple-haired figures opened their eyes with amusement, clear in both of their eyes, with the one that held a sword in her lap speaking first. "Oh. What happened, little Miko?" Makoto Raiden sweetly teased. Before the pink-haired Kitsune couple could properly speak and complain, Kitsune Saigu's voice spoke over any retort she could make. "That human Jake Barris was completely unflappable," he said, and I quote, "If anything, the fact that you kidnapped me is just proof of how talented and great I am." And he even said that he would take people not attempting to kidnap him as an insult, haha. Ei Raiden, the purple-haired beauty with the spear next to her, huffed lightly and said, "Either he is foolish, he is trying to show how he is in control of the situation, or he is already looking for a way out of here. You made sure to remove any trackers from his spatial rings, correct?" Miko's annoyed expression deepened before she said flatly, "Yes, and it was quite annoying finding all 30 of them spread out across Jake's 15 spatial rings he was wearing as a necklace." There was a pause before Makoto took back control of the conversation as she asked calmly, "So with how calm he was, I assume he came up with demands, correct?" To which Kitsune Saigu nodded and replied, "Correct, he did in fact have a deal with Snezhnaya to build his factories in their harsh wasteland. And with us kidnapping him, he has just given us the same debt they would have had should he have built their factories." "What is his price?" Ei asked with a raised eyebrow as she clearly looked astounded. A mortal, no matter how much a genius, demanded their payment before they accomplished their deeds. To which Miko recited Jake's demands in obviously extremely valuable martial arts and cultivation books. But it was the final demand that made Ei and Makoto both scowl lightly. Have a saint martial artist giving his lover helpful points. The majority of Tier 4 martial artists are busy dealing with the abyss on Watatsumi Island. Who can we set aside to spar with the girl when they should be resting? There was a pause before Miko spoke with annoyance in her voice. "There is the other clans. Kuju Sera, the heiress of the Kuju clan, is also at the first layers of the saint level." Ei scowled darker before she said flatly, "Kuju Sera is my disciple and devoted archer and user of a spear at that. Keqing of Liyue is a swordswoman. They wouldn't fit." Left unsaid was how many other members of the various commissions and clans of Inazuma couldn't be allowed to get too much influence over Jake through Keqing. The food production factories were going to be a major tool of the Tri-Commission and the Shogunate to bring all the commissions and clans back under Inazuma's divine rule. But in the end, Ei let out a hum before she folded her arms under her prodigious breasts before she spoke slowly. "Makoto, what if I acted as Keqing's tutor? It would allow me to keep an eye on Jake, to make sure no one else kidnaps him from Inazuma. Or influences him." Makoto, the goddess of eternity, sighed with a slight frown before she said, "In that case, before you go, you need to get Sasayuri and Mikashi Chiyo. Having only one god-tier combatant in just Orobashi keeping the abyss contained isn't enough. With Inazuma only having a single much larger portal leading to the abyss in the Watatsumi pit, they had to rotate their divine fighters more often as divine-level abyss monsters came out more often with larger numbers of lesser monsters as well. And like in Liyue, the various commissions and noble clans kept the far smaller portals and entrances to the abyss also contained while the gods were busy with the main portal." But then Kitsune Saigu spoke up with amusement. "Oh, and good luck picking the Tier 4 martial arts and cultivation books. I certainly am not going to be in charge of choosing which of Inazuma's heritage martial arts is given away to an outsider." With Ei's face twitching in distaste as she imagined handing over a stack of Inazuma's martial heritage to a genius inventor who wasn't even a true warrior. With even Makoto giggling at her sister's cross face from behind the raised sleeve of her kimono. Then she coughed and became more serious. "In either case, I assume he also gave a list of materials and other requirements for the factories he will build." Kitsune Saigu stepped closer to the land-ruling goddess and then handed over the thick stack of papers Jake had given her for everything needed to make the factory, with Makoto's face being pinched at the sight. He truly already planned for these factories to be built after he was kidnapped. It can't even be called paranoia when he was kidnapped. But he even included margins for having uneducated workers helping him build in comparison to his process and ability to build back in Liyue with the support of the machines he already created. Makoto's voice was dry as she cycled through the dozens of pages of references, graphs, blueprints, and projected yields of various herbs which included the treasure rice, which was the whole reason Makoto gave the green light to kidnap Jake. 1,000 pounds of treasure rice per acre. A family of 4 can go through 5 pounds of treasure rice every week with how much more filling it is. Makoto muttered as she did her own mental math. Inazuma's civilian population was obviously split up across the various islands of Inazuma, even if most of them were here on Narukami Island and Rito Island. But the total civilian population was just over 1.5 million altogether. And if each acre of his farming factory could produce at least 1,000 pounds of the rice. We need to have Jake make a 750-acre using factory, which will span just over a mile in all directions if he doesn't extend it upwards in the floors of the factory. The whole room went silent at the size of the megabuild hit their mind, and even EI looked at her sister in shock before saying in shock. That will take years to build. And Makoto smiled softly before saying firmly. Yes, it will. But if it's built, that single structure could feed all of Inazuma's civilian population. We would no longer need to hear their prayers begging for food for their starving children. Kitsune Saigu made a noise of realization as where she said. I see. You want Jake to build it piecemeal, so although it will have less food production we can still get some while the workers get used to Jake's building methods. To which Makoto shrugged as she said in total honesty. It all depends on how fast Jake can work, we shall have to see. Now I am going to get started on some paperwork. Miko, Kitsune Saigu, get rid of your clones and return back to watching Jake Barris. And both kitsunes popped into a puff of smoke, making the purple-haired goddesses huff in amusement.